Imagine you're sitting at a high-stakes blackjack table, right?
Okay, yeah.
You are dealt a 22, you bust. The cards are face up on the felt, the rules are universally understood, and, I mean, your turn is just over.
Right, you're done.
Exactly. But then the billionaire who owns the casino strolls up behind you, winks at the dealer, and the dealer just simply sweeps your cards back into the deck and pretends the bust never happened.
Wow.
Yeah. The immovable rules of the game just completely dissolved because someone with, enough leverage walked into the room.
And that exact dynamic is actually currently playing out on the global stage right now.
Right.
Not with playing cards, obviously, but with the actual rule book of the World Cup.
Right.
So the United States men's national team is facing this critical, do-or-die elimination match against Belgium. And their star player, Flo Balogun, was issued a straight red card in their previous game.
And for anyone following the tournament, a straight red card is basically a death sentence for a player's immediate eligibility.
Oh, absolutely. It means an automatic, completely non-negotiable one-game suspension. Like he's supposed to be out.
But the suspension just vanished.
Oof, gone.
The president of the United States actually got on the phone with the president of FIFA, the global governing body of soccer, and just overrode the referee's ruling.
It's wild.
So today we are unpacking how a single phone call from the Oval Office somehow rewrote the rules of the world's biggest sporting event. We're pulling our insights from a stack of sources for this deep dive, but we're primarily focusing on a really highly charged, incredibly detailed transcript from a panel discussion on the MSNBC network.
Yeah, and before we dig into the actual mechanics of how this happened,
No.
we really need to establish the parameters of this discussion.
Good call.
Because the MSNBC panel we're analyzing features some, very strong political opinions. The commentators express this profound frustration and offer really severe critiques regarding the actions of the current U.S. administration.
Right, and their interference in this tournament.
Exactly.
And to be absolutely clear to you listening, our objective today is not to validate that outrage or, take a partisan stance. We aren't here to play political pundits.
No, not at all.
Our mission is strictly to explore the arguments presented in this transcript. We are going to analyze the geopolitical mechanics that make an intervention like this possible, the history of FIFA's bylaws, and, the cultural fallout of a head of state directly altering a referee's ruling.
Yeah, and the panel actually spends a massive amount of time just agonizing over the mechanics of the rule book itself, like specifically how a red card suspension can simply disappear.
Because it's not supposed to, right?
Right. In most professional sports, if a player or a team feels an ejection was completely unjustified, they file a formal appeal to some sort of disciplinary committee.
But the MSNBC commentators pointed out that FIFA's disciplinary code just does not allow for in-tournament red card appeals based on referee judgment.
Yeah, the referee's word on the pitch is absolutely final. The system is intentionally designed as a closed loop to prevent, endless litigation from delaying the actual tournament.
So because the standard disciplinary structure basically offered zero recourse, FIFA had to bypass their own legal framework to make this happen.
They did. The panel notes that FIFA really had to dig into the deepest, darkest recesses of their bylaws. And they ended up invoking Section 27, Article 27.
Wait, what does it even do?
Well, functionally, it operates as a sort of force majeure clause for the executive committee. It essentially grants them this unilateral power to suspend any suspension.
Suspend any suspension?
Yeah, without needing to present any formal justification to a tribunal or, to the opposing teams.
It effectively gives the executive branch of FIFA monarchical power over the rule book.
Pretty much, yeah.
But, if this override switch exists, why haven't we seen it used every single time a massive superstar gets benched right before a final?
Because the political friction is usually just way too high. The sources highlight that this specific mechanism has sat virtually dormant for over 6 decades.
6 decades?
Yeah, the only other time it was successfully invoked was all the way back in 1962.
Oh, wow.
The Brazilian government applied this overwhelming diplomatic and commercial pressure on FIFA to clear their star winger, Garrincha, for the World Cup final in Chile.
Okay, so the panel uses that 1962 precedent to illustrate a bigger point about leverage. Because Brazil wasn't just, a participating nation. They were the absolute commercial center of the sport at the time.
Exactly. And Pele was already injured.
Right. So if Garrincha didn't play, the Brazilian government essentially threatened the commercial legitimacy of the entire final.
And FIFA calculated that the immediate financial success of the broadcast was just worth way more than the integrity of the suspension rule.
And the MSNW commentators draw a really direct line from 1962 to today, right? They argue that the United States is exercising that exact same brand of brute force leverage.
Yeah, they actually compared the current situation to WWE professional wrestling.
Oh, that's right. They called it a scenario where home cooking is the best cooking.
Right. They argue that the sport essentially stops being a meritocracy and just becomes scripted sports entertainment when the host nation's head of state can just dictate terms to the governing body like that.
I mean, I understand their frustration, but calling it scripted feels like a major emotional stretch from the commentator.
You think so?
Yeah, it implies the entire tournament is this choreographed fake. But the red card on the field was a real, totally spontaneous event. The resulting panic within the U.S. camp was very real.
That's true.
This seems less like a scripted WWE storyline and more like just a very raw demonstration of real politic. Like a crisis happened, and the solution just happened to involve utilizing the Oval Office instead of a sports lawyer.
I see what you mean.
Ah.
The commentators might be relying on a bit of hyperbole with the whole WWE comparison, but I think their core argument is really about the degradation of institutional boundaries.
Fair point.
Like, when off-field political power dictates on-field rosters, that illusion of a fair, rule-bound competition completely shatters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, to really grasp how tangled this specific power play is, we have to look closely at the player the president actually went to bat for.
Flo Balogun.
Right. The MSNW transcript zeroes in on his highly specific biography, which honestly reads less like a traditional sports origin story and way more like a logistical fluke of international travel.
Oh, the details the panel lays out here are just fascinating. So picture this. It's July 3, 2001. Balogun's mother, who was residing in England at the time, was attempting to board a flight back to London from New York.
Okay.
However, she was visibly 7 months pregnant.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Under the standard airline regulations in force back then, carriers frequently denied boarding to women late in their third trimester just due to the liability of mid-air medical complications.
So she was indefinitely grounded in New York.
Exactly. Because of that singular airline policy enforcement, Balogun was born in Brooklyn instead of London.
Just a total geographical technicality.
Right, but that technicality automatically granted him birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which operates on the principle of disloyalty or right of the soil.
And this is where the MSNLW panel highlights this glaring, neon-lit political irony.
Oh, it's massive.
The current U.S. administration, the very same administration that just burned all this international political capital to get Balogun back on the pitch, has built a massive portion of its political identity on aggressively opposing the concept of birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
They have actively campaigned to eliminate the exact constitutional mechanism that makes Flo Balogun an American citizen in the first place.
And the commentators really frame this as a profound contradiction. You have an administration that legislatively argues birthright citizenship is this flawed, exploitable loophole, but they are now utilizing unprecedented executive power to ensure a birthright citizen can go win a soccer game for the national team.
The panel basically views this strictly through the lens of absolute hypocrisy.
Right.
But let's look at it pragmatically for a second. In the pursuit of a massive, globally televised national victory, doesn't pure talent simply override political ideology?
I mean,
Like, it's realpolitik in its purest form. You use the absolute best asset you have available to secure the win, regardless of whether that asset's biography aligns perfectly with your domestic policy platform.
well, the MSNOW panel suggests this isn't just simple pragmatism, but actually a highly calculated compartmentalization.
How so?
They argue that in the realm of global spectacle, political leaders really rely on the public's willingness to separate policy from entertainment.
Ah, I see.
The administration calculates that the voter base is going to experience the visceral joy of a World Cup victory without, applying a legislative lens to the team roster.
They are completely banking on the dopamine of the goal, drowning out the cognitive dissonance of the policy.
Precisely. And the panel's intense frustration really stems from watching the administration seamlessly navigate that contradiction. Right?
Yeah.
Just claiming this massive cultural win by utilizing a citizen they theoretically believe shouldn't even hold that status.
Okay, so we've established that the U.S. administration wants this victory badly enough to override their own ideological stances.
Yeah.
But desire alone doesn't compel a foreign entity to just comply.
Mm.
Why does FIFA, a sovereign, multi-billion-dollar organization that operates entirely outside of U.S. jurisdiction, actually say yes when that phone rings?
It really comes down to understanding the staggering scale of the World Cup and how FIFA leverages that scale to act as basically a pseudo-nation state.
The panel refers to the tournament as the ultimate orb of power, right?
Yes, and the last global megaphone. To put it in statistical perspective, a massive domestic event like the Super Bowl commands around, what, 200 million viewers?
Something like that.
The World Cup captures an audience of 5 billion.
5 billion, that is just incomprehensible.
It's a 39-day global eclipse.
So when you hold a monopoly on 5 billion pairs of eyeballs for 39 straight days, you are essentially minting geopolitical currency. I mean, politicians will bend over backward to align themselves with that kind of concentrated attention.
Oh, absolutely. And FIFA is acutely aware of that leverage. They operate as a highly transactional entity.
Right.
The MSNNowW transcript actually details a deeply intertwined pre-existing relationship between FIFA's executive committee and the current U.S. president.
This part was fascinating.
Right. The commentators note that FIFA has been a long-term commercial tenant in Trump Tower, so they're securing premium operational space while simultaneously injecting capital directly into the president's private business empire.
And the transcript also spends time analyzing that specific award ceremony from this past December,
Oh, right.
where FIFA actually awarded the president the first ever FIFA Peace Prize.
Yeah, the commentators use that Trump Tower lease and the creation of that Peace Prize to illustrate that FIFA laid the transactional groundwork for this relationship well in advance of the tournament.
They knew what they were doing.
Definitely. FIFA's historical playbook demonstrates this clear preference for operating in environments where democratic friction is just minimized.
Minimized, yeah.
The panel points to their recent sequence of host nations. You've got Putin's, Russia, Qatar, and the upcoming tournament in Saudi Arabia.
Because in those nations, the state has the total authority to just alter local laws, bypass labor regulations, or squash public relations crises instantly just to serve the logistical needs of the tournament.
Exactly. And the MSNNowW panel argues that because the United States is the current host, FIFA is simply treating the U.S. administration the exact same way it treated the Qatari or Russian governments.
Interesting.
FIFA operates internally like an autocracy, and they prefer to negotiate with executives who can act unilaterally. So when the U.S. president demanded the suspension be lifted, FIFA just utilized Article 27 to accommodate the request, ensuring their operational environment remained totally frictionless.
See, I have to challenge the panel's framing of FIFA here as this supreme, untouchable orchestrator that's just playing everyone.
Really?
If FIFA instantly caves to a single phone call from a host nation's leader and rewrites their own rule book on demand, doesn't that actually prove FIFA's incredibly fragile? I mean, they don't have a military, they don't have sovereign territory. They rely entirely on the infrastructure, the security, and the goodwill of whatever nation they happen to be occupying at the moment. When the U.S. flexed, FIFA folded.
I wouldn't necessarily interpret their compliance as fragility, though.
No.
No, they operate more like a cartel, managing mutually assured destruction.
Okay, explain that.
Well, yes, FIFA requires the host nation's infrastructure, absolutely. But the U.S. administration also desperately desires that economic injection and the global prestige of a flawless World Cup run.
Right.
FIFA didn't bend the knee because they were intimidated by U.S. sovereignty. They bent the knee because the Trump Tower leases and that FIFA Peace Prize laid a foundation of transactional equity. They traded a rule change for continued executive goodwill and logistical smooth sailing. It's really just a calculated exchange of favors among power brokers, not a sign of institutional weakness.
Okay, so the backroom deal is struck, Article 27 is invoked, and Balogun is officially back on the pitch for the elimination game against Belgium.
He's back.
The Goliath flexed its muscles and got its way. But what does the MSNNowW panel actually say about the cultural cost of this maneuver, especially when you consider what this specific U.S. men's national team was achieving completely organically before the phone call?
Yeah, the panel expresses this deep, almost agonizing sense of loss regarding the team's narrative.
Because they were so fun to watch.
Exactly. Before this incident, the commentators described the USMNT as a genuine cultural phenomenon. They were playing what they called swaggy, joyous football.
Such a great phrase.
It is. They were uniting a really heavily polarized American public simply by being this fiercely talented, cohesive squad, making an unexpected deep run. And crucially, they didn't need any administrative intervention to be competitive.
Right, and the commentators argue that this intervention forcibly slaps a permanent asterisk on the rest of the tournament for them.
A huge asterisk.
The narrative shifts instantly. The U.S. is no longer the plucky underdog slaying these European giants purely on merit. They have basically been recast as the massive geopolitical bully manipulating the referee to ensure an outcome.
And the panel insists that the international community will just never view a U.S. victory in this tournament as legitimate now.
Never.
Every subsequent goal, every defensive stop, it's all going to be viewed exclusively through the lens of Section 27, Article 27. The intervention strips the team of their organic charm and assigns them the role of the systemic villain.
The panel is totally convinced the asterisk is permanent. But you really have to wonder if history actually remembers the asterisks or if history only remembers the winners.
That's the big question.
And the MSNOW commentators broaden their critique beyond just the sport here. They argue this incident is indicative of how the administration fundamentally operates across the board. They use this incredibly vivid, kind of visceral phrase, stating that the president wears sports as a skin suit.
The skin suit metaphor is really the crux of the panel's cultural critique.
It's tense.
It is. They argue the administration systematically inserts itself into cultural moments that are larger than politics, just attempting to absorb all the associated goodwill and joy for its own benefit.
Like trying to steal the limelight.
Exactly.
Right.
They cite previous examples in the transcript, too, like the administration interfering with security protocols and traffic at a New York Knicks game,
Right.
or dictating operational terms to U.S. men's hockey, and even injecting partisan commentary into the news cycle surrounding the passing of filmmaker Rob Reiner.
It is a deliberate strategy of co-opting cultural momentum for political proximity.
Yes.
And the panel highlights a moment from the White House press briefing that perfectly illustrates the sheer transactional nature of this specific World Cup intervention.
This was wild.
Yeah, while taking questions at the World Cup, the president openly admitted he didn't even know what a red card was.
That admission completely cements the panel's argument. I mean, the phone call to FIFA wasn't driven by some nuanced understanding of soccer strategy or a passionate, purist defense of fair play.
No, not at
A
all.
cold calculation recognizing the utility of a massive audience. The sport is merely the vehicle. The objective is just the demonstration of power and the acquisition of the resulting applause.
But let's put ourselves in the shoes of the listener right now.
Okay.
Imagine you are a diehard U.S. soccer fan. You have waited decades for a squad this talented to emerge. You are facing a brutal do-or-die elimination game against Belgium.
Stressful.
Very. The MSNOW commentators are agonizing over the loss of institutional trust, the purity of the game, and the implications of this skin suit. But practically speaking, if this backroom political deal gets your absolute best player on the field when you need him most, do you really care about a theoretical asterisk? Or do you just want the dopamine hit of the win?
Well, the panel actually eventually concedes that very uncomfortable reality.
They do.
Yeah, they acknowledge that the intervention is likely going to be wildly popular with a huge segment of the domestic fan base.
Makes sense.
The immediate, visceral gratification of a World Cup victory usually just drowns out any abstract, long-term concerns about institutional integrity.
People just want to win.
Right. People want to see their team advance, and they honestly often don't care how the sausage is made to get them there.
But the commentators do issue a really stark warning alongside that concession, don't they?
They do.
They say, you take the win today and you celebrate in the streets, but tomorrow you wake up and realize the entire framework of the game is negotiable.
Exactly.
The rules only apply when the people in the VIP box decide they apply. The price for that immediate victory is paid entirely in the currency of trust.
And this entire saga just serves as a perfect microcosm of modern power dynamics. You have the organic community, the raw emotion, and the straightforward meritocracy of a sport, just colliding directly with the leverage-based transactional reality of global politics.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We've traced how an organization with 5 billion viewers negotiates its own bylaws to appease a host nation, and how the logistical irony of a birthright citizen became the fulcrum for this massive international power play. We really appreciate you taking the deep dive with us.
Thanks for listening.
As you watch the rest of this World Cup, and specifically how the world reacts to that US-Belgium match, we want to leave you with one final thought to just mull over.
What's that?
Well, if sports have traditionally been our ultimate cultural sanctuary, precisely because they offer a level playing field, a strictly boundaried place where the rules are supposed to apply equally to the weakest rookie and the most powerful superstar, what happens to our society when we realize the referee's whistle can simply be silenced by a phone call from the people in charge? We'll see you next time.